Whew. Hey there. We all know the environmental and ethical reasons for following a plant-based diet, but what happens inside our bodies as we swap out animal proteins for more plant-based ones? I'm Adam KRUGER, and you may know me as the PlantX Vegalier, but I'm also a lifelong athlete. Join me as I speak with different members of the medical advisory board here at PlantX to figure out exactly what goes on inside your body as you follow a more plant-based diet. Welcome to Medically Speaking. How does a plant-based diet affect your immune system? Well, to find out, I spoke with Dr. Paul Gross, a family physician who specializes in men's health and the immune system. He's here in Vancouver, and we had a great conversation about what exactly a plant-based diet does for your immune system. Take a look.
My name is Paul Gross. I'm a Vancouver-based family physician. I do all kinds of general practice, but focus my practice mainly in men's health and HIV.
Paul, thank you so much for being here today. I know so many people want to know basically how a plant-based diet can affect your immune system.
You know, it's interesting. We kind of think that plants themselves are magical aspects of a healthy nutrition, and they are, frankly, they really are. But a lot of how the immune system works is ensuring the basics of good health, right? So good sleep, limited stress, lots of regular exercise, and then that balanced diet component is a big part of it. And when you don't have balance with those other factors, then diet becomes kind of less potent. You know, you really have to put it all together to see the full benefits of a plant-based diet. So, but in general, we're talking about how the immune system regulates defense against infection and how that kind of evolved over time. And then how the immune system manages inflammation for a whole variety of conditions related to aging, or just to kind of what we would call a sedentary Western lifestyle, you know, where inflammation as a result of sedentary lifestyle, stress, and poor nutrition really drives a ton of chronic diseases, including cardiovascular disease, diabetes, fatty liver. And then down the line, we can see the effects in terms of increasing risk for neurodegenerative conditions. So it affects all aspects of the body and frankly, a lot as well for cancer. So we understand cancer isn't a uniform condition. Cancers are all very different, but many cancers are connected with the pathways of inflammation in the body. So the more we can manage those through diet and all the other lifestyle factors we discussed, the better for long-term prevention.
So basically what you're saying then is that because a plant-based diet reduces inflammation in the body, we can then see better health as a result, provided obviously that we're not staying awake for 23 hours out of the day and driving,
exactly.
You know, sitting all the time, right?
Yeah. We joke that, you know, there are certain things, for example, like coffee, that's a very well recognized, you know, polyphenol that, or tea, and any caffeine natural source that does bring benefit, but you know, if you're having 10 cups of coffee and jittery all day, then of course it's not. So, and people will argue that, you know, coffee itself is not enough, you know, that each thing would only bring a certain fraction of benefit. So it's the whole that matters the most, right? It's that if you have a plant-based diet, you're actually doing that. You're not just having a kale salad for lunch twice a week and hoping that that's enough. You're incorporating all of those aspects of prevention and benefit for the immune system when it comes to antioxidants, when it comes to, you know, the vitamin C, vitamin E cascades, and all of the carotenoids that we see in plants that come from the earth. You know, it's fascinating how you're getting a nutrition source that is usually low production. Hopefully it's local. Hopefully, you know, it's organic, of course. And it isn't drawing, you know, excessively from the earth to get into your body. And the benefits are really incredible. So, I really think there's no silver bullet with this question. It's part of a whole. And the more you eat plant-based, the more you're incorporating each of those aspects of antioxidants, omega-3s, reducing oxidative stress on all the systems of the body, and then giving the immune system a fighting chance in terms of its job every day. Because every time we go to sleep at night, our immune system, that's when it does most of its work. And so during the day, if we're managing and fueling it with the right ingredients and then setting up a really good sleep, you know, ideally 7 to 8 hours as a minimum, These top level athletes like LeBron James and Tom Brady, and the ones who have been able to perform for years at a high level, they don't negotiate with sleep. These guys sleep 10 hours a day, even if they train twice a day. That's a huge part of their recovery and their overall wellness program is sleep. So, but again, sleep, like we talked about, isn't enough if during the day you're eating Big Macs and half a dozen beers. So
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. So speaking about the immune system, right? I know a lot of people out there are probably watching right now. And by the way, if you are watching right now, comment below on your thoughts, what you think about this. But of course, remember, I'm speaking with an actual doctor who, is educated and has studied these things. And so speaking from this perspective, right, I know a lot of people might be going, well, okay, but some meat's got to be healthy, and what happens to the body what happens inside the body when someone consumes, let's say, steak versus a plant-based protein source? Like, what is the difference in how the immune system will react or respond based on these two different stimuli?
Yeah, I think what that boils down to is what happens in the gut. And over the years, I think there's two body systems I always tell patients that are really kind of the last frontier in medicine. And one of them is the microbiome of the gut and its relationship to the entire body. And usually that relationship is through the pathways of inflammation and what happens at the level of the gut wall. So all the immune mechanisms that are there to defend us from food coming in that could be causing illness or excess kind of effort for the body to manage. And the other last frontier is the nervous system. I'm not sure we'll ever totally understand what goes on in the brain, but that's what I tell patients. And interestingly enough, the connection between those two systems, the gut-brain connection, is the immune system. And how the circulation and immune organs kind of manage these compounds once they've been absorbed into the body. And a lot of the time when we talk about dysbiosis or a bacterial kind of imbalance in the gut, there's a lot of evidence that shows that, for instance, red meat in particular drives dysbiosis, and that causes dysregulation of the gut's kind of protective mechanisms. And then you have actually what they call a leaky gut syndrome, where bacteria that's in the gut will stimulate inflammation cascades in the body that have all kinds of negative factors going on. So, for example, in my work with HIV, one of the main immune deficits and one of the main impacts of long-term HIV, or if you get severely immunocompromised and develop AIDS, is a thinning and deficiency of the gut wall. And so that immune barrier is lost, and then you get much more bacterial translocation and immune activation and inflammation in the body. So when we go back to the question about red meat, that's very well established that red meat causes a lot of work. I call it work for the gut and for the body. And I've noticed myself, like many things, your body kind of gets used to high levels of intake. If someone drinks a lot of alcohol, it doesn't matter to them if they have 6 or 8 drinks in a sitting, but for someone who doesn't, that would cause a 2-day hangover. So it's the same with red meat. I've noticed that, if I don't eat a lot of red meat, which I haven't for many years, I can count maybe on one hand the number of times in a year I might do that. I feel it. I feel what it does to my body. I feel the work that it's taking to digest that source of nutrition. And when you think about what you're getting from red meat, it's very interchangeable and frankly better in many ways with plant-based sources or other, healthier animal sources of protein that don't kind of cause the same work for the gut. And we know, there haven't been really any studies showing that, for example, an oily fish diet and light chicken and kind of Mediterranean diet causes increased colon cancer. But we know countless studies show that a high red meat diet increases the risk of colon cancer. And we feel that the mechanism is probably through inflammation and gut bacterial dysbiosis. So, it's fascinating to see that, like we were talking about earlier, when you remove a negative, a well-known negative, and replace it with just more positive, in terms of the plant-based and taking out the red meat, you're getting a lot of long-term benefit for sure.
I mean, that makes perfect sense to me, of course, and I appreciate understanding, the medical side of it. So there you have it. Right there, the immune system tends to thrive as we remove the animal-based products, and it does better with plant-based proteins. Is that a accurate statement?
Yeah, it is. And I think, protein is an important building block for the immune system. A lot of athletes and folks focused on nutrition will look to supplement with amino acids, either branched chain amino acids or a good protein powder, plant-based, of course. And that's where they're getting that additional supplement. If someone has a meat-heavy diet, they're getting a ton of protein, a ton of amino acid in there, but they're getting all the negatives. So when people wonder, are they getting enough protein on plant-based, I think you can always supplement with very healthy sources, and then you're getting a great baseline by focusing on the foods that do bring high proteins through plant sources. But in terms of, the nutrition aspect, it's the antioxidant effect, vitamin E, vitamin C, and looking for reducing oxidative stress in the body. And that's really the cascade of inflammation that we've been talking about.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for being with me today, Paul. And actually, you've raised a good question that I'm going to have to talk to you about on a future episode, which is all about plant-based, or not plant-based, but why athletes do better on a plant-based diet, or they seem to. So we're going to jump into that in a future episode. But again, thank you so much for being with us today. If you have questions for Paul, just put them in the comments below, and we will try to get back to you as soon as possible, of course. But Dr. Paul Gross, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks so much, Adam. It's been great.
Well, I hope you learned something new here today, because I sure did. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments below, and we'll address them in a future episode. Until then, stay fit, stay healthy, and eat more plants. See you next time.